"Oh, Jerry, we really want to hear your opinions on Dinky's Destiny," trilled several correspondents as they cheekily backed out of the room. "Oh, I see how it is. Nobody wants to be around when Silly Philly Studios is training you to ignore yet another quality recognition instinct, but the moment something comes around that offends whatever atrophied taste buds you have left, then suddenly I'm your personal attack dog? Well, how do you know I don't actually really like Dinky's Destiny? I don't, but you'd look pretty silly if I had." I'm not exaggerating for the sake of a Yahtzee quote, by the way. I got a lot of mail telling me to blast Minty Root's latest work with a fire hose. I'm surprised. I haven't seen the brony community that vindictive since a teenage girl once said, "Hey, perhaps making jokes about sexual assault is kind of cruel." So forgive me if I regard angry bronies with absolute giggling contempt. I've gotta say, Minty Root is a fascinating example when it comes to fan animators. He has this habit of, how shall I put it, shooting big? You remember back in Mommy Dagio equals Alicorns, I said that if the choice was between a slice of life and an adventure through the 7 circles of hell, I was gonna take the 7 circles of hell every time? Well, Minty Root's work goes that way. They're very ambitious and work on a very big scale. Project Thundercloud itself had a relatively big in scale story. It's hard to recall since it was all over the place and the videos have since been made private. And Dinky's Destiny operated under the same attitude. There were stories that I could tell their issues lied in a lack of polish and grace on the part of the writer, which is a much more admirable failing than packing your script full of memes, or writing your dialogue from the school of Tommy Wiseau, or jerking off Luna fans, or going, "Look at the blind pony! Isn't the blind pony adorable?" Minty Root strikes me as a writer who'll only improve with repeated application. I never got that feeling watching Double Rainbow or Snowdrop. I certainly didn't get it from watching Follow the Crystal dialogue cliches. Hell, you ever sit down and try to watch Project Thundercloud? It starts out like it's going to be this cute little mockumentary about Derpy. I was invested, and the story went completely loopy. Something about eternal night and blinding ponies and Celestia being evil. Yeah, it was bad, but it was bad in fascinating ways. I wanted to see what this story could be like with more polish. My mantra with writing is there are no bad ideas, only bad executions. Any project can be done well. Any story, any work of animation, anything that has ever come out of this community and sucked horribly has a good version of it in there somewhere. All it takes is the right person to make that story work. With any other fan animation, I've always felt that the team needed a dedicated writer because they were both incapable and unwilling to address this issue. With Project Thundercloud and Dinky's Destiny, I felt that Minty Root simply needed another few months to refine his skills with a pen. I'd love to see what form these two projects would take about 5 years from now. And while some less perceptive people will nitpick a few animation hiccups or the voice acting, the animation is still incredible. Unfortunately, fan animations don't score points for that anymore. We've seen how good the community's animators can be. We've seen the impressive visuals animators can produce. Fan projects like Dinky's Destiny and Fall of the Crystal Empire do not have an animation problem. What they have is a writing problem.
Oi, that's the Parasprite who's slagging off Silly Philly Studios. Get him!
Ah! In the name of Celestia, please don't take me to the Iron Horde. Okay, I think I'm safe for now. What in the name of... Never mind, I'll roll with it. Where was I? Oh yeah. Writing is the foundation for all these projects. It's the single most important thing to be focused on. If your writing sucks, your project sucks. And no amount of pretty visuals or adorable fillies is going to distract from that. Double Rainboom wasn't bad because its animation was lackluster. It was bad because its script was packed to the brim with internet memes and it's funny because Lauren Faust. Snowdrop wasn't bad because its animation was sloppy. Snowdrop was bad because it tried so desperately to tug your heartstrings because look at the blind pony! Isn't that blind pony adorable and sad? You will feel the sad too! Dusk's Dawn wasn't bad because its animation was bad. I mean, its animation was bad, but that's an easily forgiven fault. It was bad because... well, just listen to this.
Freeze. I'm way too evil for that.
Fall of the Crystal Empire wasn't bad because its animation was bad, it was bad because every line out of every character was a goddamn cliche. Are you seeing my point yet? Animation has never been and will never be the selling point of an animated work. Like any other work, it's the writing. The one thing that this fandom seems to be wholly inept at. Good writers, or even promising writers, are few and far between, while good animators are a dime a dozen. Why do you think so many people love the Pony Move series? It wasn't the animation. The animation simply emphasized the absurdity of the writing. And Max Ghilardi is funny. He's very funny. The only issue anybody's gonna have with this is if Ghilardi's brand of humor simply isn't their thing. A perfectly valid complaint to have. But then we get something like Children of the Night or Lullaby for a Princess, something absolutely beautiful that nobody can really think of any complaints for. Why are these so much better? It's because they don't have an awful story dragging them down. They're both music videos, animations set to songs that were written quite a while ago. For an animator making a project, this is a perfect environment, because now they can do what they're really good at, animate and tell a story entirely through the visuals. They're not under an obligation to cobble a script together and stretch into forms of art that are beyond their ability. Do you remember how in Revenge of the Sith, once he no longer had to read any of George Lucas's awful dialogue, Hayden Christensen was one of the most terrifying actors in all of film? That was one of the biggest indicators that Lucas was responsible for a lot of the really bad shit that went into all 6 Star Wars movies. And Brony fan animations are much the same way. Once you put them into an element where they only have to worry about their specialty, they can really blow people away. This is an important thing to recognize about any project you plan to undergo. Writing, that being the story, the dialogue, the pacing, all of that, is the core of your work. It's the heart, lungs, and brain of a breathing creature. The animation has always been and will always be the surface. It may look pretty, but it's not going to help you in any way if it has no foundation to stand on. All of that can be forgiven because at the end of the day, it's not important. Your writing is important. It's more important than anything else, and it's the most difficult of the artistic disciplines. If your story sucks, your entire work is going to suck, and there's no way around that other than to make a better story. But Jerry, the animation is pretty. Oh I forgot. 10 out of 10.